Everyone expected to die, till she pointed at the one they feared most. The human asterisk. She wasn't supposed to touch the human. Not with all those cameras watching. Not in the middle of the first contact ceremony. Not while the galaxy held its breath. And yet, there she was, Ambassador Nyxora Vel of the Zelari Empire, stating on the grand stage of the Unity Summit, her 3 shimmering fingers brushing against the rough-skinned hand of Commander Ray Thorne. A quiet gasp echoed through. The crowd. Zelari didn't touch outsiders. Not ever. But Nyxora didn't care, because in that moment, she wasn't a diplomat. She was a woman who had seen something in Ray Thorne that no alien, no warrior, no scientist, no male from her world had ever shown her. Raw, unfiltered, human. It all started 7 days ago. Ray Thorne was tired, sore, and still had dried blood under his fingernails when they dragged him into the Zelari ambassadorial chamber. He'd just spent 46 hours saving a crashed exploratory crew from a burning moon base. And all he wanted was a hot shower and 8 hours of uninterrupted unconsciousness. Instead, he was met with glowing walls, tall, statuesque figures with skin like molten silver, and a translator drone that whispered, "The ambassador is waiting." Nyxora stood tall, elegant, and cold. Her pale white skin glowed faintly, and 2 long tendrils her arrow moved gently in the air, sensing everything. She watched Ray like a biologist studying an unpredictable animal. He didn't bow, he didn't salute, he just said, "You wanted to meet a human. Congratulations. You got one with dirt still in his boots." She tilted her head. "You are ... blunt." He shrugged. "You're tall." For a second, Nyxora said nothing. "Damn." Then her lips curved slightly. It's not quite a smile, but close. That was the moment it began. Over the next few days, they were stuck together for formal diplomacy. Every second of it was monitored, documented, and recorded for galactic posterity. Nyxora kept her distance. Zelari were strict about physical contact, modesty, and emotional restraint. Humans were not, Ray joked. He laughed too loud, stretched when he was tired, and swore when he was annoyed. He ate messy food and stared directly into Nyxora's eyes when he talked. It made her uncomfortable at first, then curious, then intrigued. He noticed, of course, something on my face. He asked one night after a formal dinner, when they were left alone for a few minutes. Nyxora hesitated. Her arrow twitched with uncertainty. "You are unlike the others. Loud, crude, yet comforting." Ray smirked. "Comforting? You mean sexy?" Her eyes widened. "We do not speak so." Forwardly, chuckled. "Then you're really not ready for what's on Earth Internet." She blinked, then tilted her head again. "Your confidence is statistically unjustified. Zelari males are scientifically engineered for optimal fertility and physical compatibility." Ray raised an eyebrow. "You're telling me your guys were grown in test tubes to be perfect? Yes? Then no wonder you're curious about the real thing. It was a joke. It's half a joke, maybe." But Nyxora didn't laugh. Her expression stayed unreadable. Her gaze dipped ever so briefly to his hands, then lower. Ray cleared his throat. "Okay, wow. So, what's the Zelari word for awkward?" "There is none. Our conversations are designed for clarity, not misinterpretation." Leaned forward slightly. "Then let me be clear. I think you're fascinating. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real." She didn't respond, but her arrow moved closer. That was 4 days ago. Now on the summit stage, as the whole galaxy watched, Nyxora made a decision that would spark headlines, outrage, poetry, and maybe even war. She reached for the human, a single touch. Skin against skin. Not a diplomatic gesture, not a political move. A choice, a connection. Ray didn't flinch. He didn't blink. He just looked her in the eye and gently closed his fingers around hers. For a moment, everything was silent. Then someone in the crowd shouted, "She touched him. That's a bonding sign." Everything went straight to hell. Guards moved. Delegates shouted. Cameras zoomed in. But Ray only had eyes for Nyxora. "You sure about this?" he asked under his breath. She nodded once. "I've studied humans for 5 years. but I never understood them until I met you." He grinned. "Then you're about to learn a whole lot more." And just like that, humanity's first interspecies romance began with one scandalous touch, one reckless decision, and one very curious alien woman who was about to find out why human biology wasn't just different, it was dangerously superior, and she couldn't wait to explore every inch of it. Asterisk, they say, history turns on small moments. A spark in dry grass. A word spoken out of turn. Or, apparently, an alien ambassador holding hands with a human in front of 1,000 interstellar delegates and 30 billion livestream viewers. Ixara. Vel hadn't meant to start a cultural firestorm, but as her slender silver fingers wrapped around Raythorn's rough, calloused ones, she knew the point of no return had been crossed. She'd touched a human in public. On stage, during the First Contact Summit, the galaxy lost its damn mind. Security. Drones buzzed overhead. Zalari guards in white armor moved to shield their ambassador, weapons not quite drawn but ready. News feeds exploded. Across the spiral arms, headlines flashed in bold across language matrices. Zalari ambassador initiates bonding ritual with human commander. Is this diplomacy? Oh, or foreplay? Galactic traditions shattered in prime sector. Just stood there, hand in hers, the corner of his mouth twitching like he was trying not to laugh. "Want to let go before they start shooting?" he muttered. Nixara didn't. Not yet. Her aerosensitive appendages tuned to subtle emotional, and biological shifts were quivering uncontrollably. The last time that happened, she was undergoing her initiation ceremony at age 17, surrounded by 5 high elders and a pressured dome full of ceremonial steam. This is worse. "You have no idea what this touch means to my people," she whispered. "Enlighten me," Ray said, still calm despite the chaos unfolding around them. Nixara took a breath, then said softly, "It's the beginning of pairing recognition. The next step is ... compatibility confirmation." Ray blinked. Compatibility confirmation? That what it sounds like? She nodded, cheeks shimmering with heat, physical ... and emotional. Now he laughed quietly under his breath, with that same cocky grin that made her skin tingle. "You just started interstellar dating protocol in front of 1 billion viewers," he said. "Kinda romantic, in a catastrophic way." She gave a tiny shake of her head. "You don't understand, Commander Thorne. Once initiated, Zalari pairing is ... monitored. You and I will now be subject to ... evaluation, biometric scans, emotional reviews, hormonal sampling." Ray tilted his head. "Wait, they're gonna analyze our feelings?" "Yes, and blood work, arousal thresholds." That made him pause, then grin wider. "Gotta say, lady, your people know how to spice up a first date." Nixara's heart, or the Zalari equivalent. A dual-chamber bio-core beat double time. 2 hours later, they were locked in a diplomatic debrief room deep beneath the Unity Summit Tower, alone. Finally, though, as Ray noted with a smirk, the walls were likely listening. "I've seen less surveillance in prison cells," he muttered, pacing slowly. "So, ... what now?" Nixara sat at the edge of a long crystalline bench, her legs crossed tightly. Her arrow drooped in embarrassment. "Now, we are monitored for mutual compatibility. Over the next 72 hours, we will be evaluated for biological resonance, emotionally, entanglement, and physical synchronization." Ray raised an eyebrow. "Physical what?" Nixara stood, forcing herself to keep her voice even. "They will test to see if we are able to function as a bonded pair. In all ways, you'll let that hang in the air a moment," and took a slow step forward. "So, basically, ... alien dating meets science experiment." "Yes, and if we fail these tests, then I will be recalled, disgraced, removed from my post. You will be sent back to Earth. ... After a full decontamination process." Ray chuckled. "That last part sounds fun. The rest not so much." Nixara looked up at him, her eyes glowing. Faintly. But if we pass... He stepped closer. Then what? She hesitated, then whispered, then we are eligible for full pairing. Codomicile arrangements? Genetic compatibility trials? Future formation, he repeated. She blushed. Procreation protocols. He stared for a beat, then said very softly, you mean ... kids? Nixara nodded. Yes, your DNA and mine, hybrid offspring. Ray let out a low whistle. Well, didn't expect my Tuesday to include the possibility of making alien babies. Nixara folded her arms, suddenly defensive. You make light, but this is serious. My people do not bond lightly. If we begin these tests, and you fail to complete them or abandon the process midway, it will reflect as a biological rejection. Meaning what? Meaning, I will be marked as ... unpairable. Ray's smile faded. He moved a little closer, until she could feel the heat of his body. Earl twitched, caught in the scent of him. Salt, earth, danger, and something else. Desire? You really want this? He asked. She looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know what I want, Raythorn, but I know I feel more when I'm around you than I ever have around any male of my species. He reached out, brushed a strand of glowing hair from her cheek. That's a good start. Nixara's breath caught, and then the overhead light turned green. A robotic voice chimed. Phase 1, emotional compatibility initiated. Both of them froze. Ray looked up. Wait, are we being tested right now? Nixara nodded slowly. Yes, every word. Every gesture, even your scent receptors are being analyzed. He gave a slow, amused grin. So ... no pressure. She exhaled slowly, then turned to face him fully. Commander Thorne, if we do this, I need to know you will not treat this like a game. Ray's face softened. Nixara, you saved my life by pulling me into this mess. Whatever happens next, I'm not walking away. She stared at him a long moment, then stepped forward closer than before. Her arrow began to rise again. Her breath trembled. You must touch me again. Willingly, to begin phase 2. Ray reached out and took her hand. The green light above turned amber. A quiet ping sounded. Touch recognized. Phase 2. Physical response initiated. And just like that, the room began to warm. Subtle scents released into the air. Sensors activated. They were being studied. Like animals in heat. Nixara swallowed hard. Ray raised an eyebrow. Well, he said, eyes twinkling, I guess the lab rats are getting cozy. And so, the testing began. Not with machines or wires, but with glances, words, laughter, breathing, and eventually touch, soft, curious, electric, 2 species. 2 hearts, 2 completely incompatible beings, finding out just how compatible they really were. Asterisk, the problem with being watched constantly is that eventually, you stop caring. Raythorn had once been interrogated by the Mars Security Directorate for 6 straight days. He'd been strapped to a chair with a nerve scanner under. His tongue and an AI voice asking him the same question 429 different ways. It hadn't broken him, but this alien bonding room with its soft lights, relaxing pheromone fog, and surveillance orbs, quietly humming overhead. This was worse, because the thing was, he actually wanted to pass. Nixara sat across from him, legs folded beneath her, like some perfect sculpture. Her silver-white skin shimmered subtly under the mood lighting. She was trying hard not to look affected, but her arrow were betraying her. Those sensitive emotional tendrils quivered every time Ray shifted. Every time he spoke, hell, every time he breathed a little too deeply, and he knew what that meant now. The Zelari weren't used to humans, not our scent, not our heat, and definitely not our biology. Nixara had explained it clinically at first. Zelari reproduction is largely a guided process. Emotional compatibility is scanned before we attempt contact. Pairing is structured. Ray naturally had responded with, so basically, with science. She didn't get the joke now. They were on day 2 of compatibility observation, and things were heating up. Literally, the room's temperature was slowly rising as part of some weird Zolari test. Their species responded to warmth. It made them more emotionally open, Nixara had explained. But Ray was already halfway out of his uniform jacket, his undershirt damp with sweat. "Where I come from, we call this foreplay," he muttered. Face flushed a deeper shade of pearl. "This is not foreplay. This is calibrated hormonal conditioning." "Sure it is." Another beep came from the wall. Subject heart rate, 98.2 BPM. Zellere response. Heightened stimulus detected. "Recommend visible closure interval," Nixara sighed. "It wants us to sit closer." Ray stood and crossed the room in 3 strides. "Permission to close the interval, Ambassador?" She hesitated, then nodded once. "Granted." He sat beside her, thigh brushing against hers. Her body temperature was cooler than his, but not by much. The skin-to-skin contact made her aerial flutter like leaves in a storm. "You okay?" he asked, voice suddenly softer. Nixara turned to him, her voice tight. "My people were designed to bond through touch and scent. Your presence is... triggering those instincts. I am attempting to remain... diplomatic." "Well, I hate to break it to you," Ray said with a crooked smile, "but diplomacy left the building when you grabbed my hand on live galaxy-wide broadcast." Nixara let out a sound that might have been a laugh or a quiet gasp, and it was hard to tell. Then the lights dimmed again. Phase 3. Experimental synergy mode initiated. "Oh, come on," Ray muttered. "What the hell does that mean?" Nixara looked uncomfortable. "It means we must now engage in a controlled emotional exchange." In English, she looked down. "We tell each other something we've never admitted to anyone else. Truth, vulnerability, emotional synchrony. It's intimate." Ray nodded slowly. "You go first." Her fingers fidgeted in her lap. "I was genetically optimized at birth. Intelligence, physicality, fertility. I've never known what it is to be chosen freely. Pairings are assigned. Everything in my life has been planned except you." Ray sat still, surprised. "You feel trapped by perfection?" She nodded once. Ray was quiet for a moment, then said, "I never wanted to be a soldier. I was a mechanic. My dad owned a shop. I joined the space fleet because my brother died on a colony that never got the supplies we were supposed to send. I signed up so I'd never have to bury someone I loved again." Nixara stared at him, something soft and shimmering in her eyes. "You're ready to die on that burning moon base." He shrugged. "Guess I'm just dumb like that." "No?" She whispered. "You're ... human like that," before either of them could say another word. A crash echoed through the ceiling vent. Ray was on his feet in an instant. Hand instinctively going to his beltware, he realized with some frustration. He was unarmed. The vent above them creaked. "Please tell me you don't have rats," he said. Nixara's eyes narrowed. "We do not. But that is not uncommon behavior among intelligence-gathering factions." "You mean spies?" She nodded. "Someone is trying to gather data on our pairing progress." Ray rolled his eyes. "Can't even make a love confession." Without interstellar paparazzi, the vent snapped open and something dropped. Small, spherical, blinking, move. Ray grabbed Nixara and dove behind the crystal bench just as the device exploded in a puff of thick blue mist. Alarms screamed. Security lights blared. BIO, intrusion detected. Lockdown protocols initiated. Ray coughed, waving the haze away. "What the hell was that?" Nixara's voice was hoarse. "Pheromone bomb. Someone wants to force pairing acceleration." "Force. It's illegal, dangerous, and extremely invasive." Her aerial trembled uncontrollably now. "Ray, we need to leave." As the doors sealed with a hiss, he realized something. This wasn't just some sci-fi romance anymore. Someone out there didn't want this bond to happen, and they were willing to break every law in the galactic rulebook to stop it. He helped Nixara up, his arm firm around her waist. "You okay?" She leaned into him, dizzy from the gas. I need to complete the pairing, or my nervous system will destabilize. Then we're finishing this together. He turned to the wall camera, staring it down like a soldier on the battlefield. You want a compatibility test? Said fine. But you'd better be ready for what happens when a human fights for the woman he loves. Because this wasn't about experiments anymore. It was war, asterisk. The lockdown doors sealed with a final hiss that echoed through the chamber like a death knell. Commander? Raythorn had been trapped in hostile environments before crash ships, enemy, bunkers. Even the time he got stuck inside a malfunctioning alien zoo on Drell 9, but nothing quite prepared him for being locked inside. A Zalari bonding chamber with an ambassador whose body was reacting like it had just discovered what lust was and couldn't undiscover it. Nixara clung to his arm, her balance wobbly. Her skin shimmered brighter than before, and her breathing had become shallow. Her aerial, though soft, glowing tendrils were twisting in the air like they were trying to grab onto something solid. This pheromone exposure. It's accelerating the bond response cycle, she said between shaky breaths. Meaning? Bray asked, shifting to help her sit before she collapsed. Her voice dropped to a whisper. My body thinks the pairing has begun. It's entering the first stage meld. If we don't stabilize the connection, the hormonal overload could cause system-wide failure. Mature organs could shut down from not finishing a bond. She nodded, wincing. It's rare. It's not fatal if treated fast enough, but the body reacts as if it's been rejected by its chosen mate. Ray stared at her. Your biology assumes I've walked away. Nixara didn't respond. Rarel twitched again, curling toward him instinctively. And that was when it hit him. This wasn't just some cultural tradition. This was primal, chemical, deeply ingrained in who and what she was. She needed him, not just emotionally, physiologically. Asterisk, and he could feel his own body responding to. His heartbeat had picked up. Skin felt hot. Every time her arm brushed his, sent a jolt straight to places he didn't think alien diplomacy would ever reach. Ray sat beside her, gently tilting her chin up so she had to meet his eyes. You told me not to treat this like a game. I haven't. I don't. But I need to know something. Nixara blinked, struggling to focus. Do you want this? He asked softly. Not because of your culture, not because of your instincts, but because of me? Her response was a whisper. More than I can explain. That was all the permission he needed. Gently, he placed his palm against her cheek. Her skin was cooler than his, but soft, silky. She leaned into his touch like it anchored her. I'm not going anywhere, Ray said firmly. Stabilize this. ... together. She nodded. Her arm twined cautiously around his wrist. A gesture she had warned him earlier was intimate to the point of permanent implication. Room's lights dimmed again. Asterisk. Above them, a voice chimed. Uninterrupted bond response confirmed. Synchronization protocol activated. Please maintain contact for neural stability. Ray gave a dry laugh. Well, that's one way of saying hold hands and don't let go. But when he looked at Nixara, her eyes had changed. They glowed faintly now. Her pupils were larger, her breathing more even. The bond had started to stabilize, and she was beginning to feel everything. Or warm, she murmured, her fingers tightening around his. Or scent. It's triggering every part of my neural cortex. It's not the worst review I've had, Ray quipped. So, does this mean I passed the pheromone test? You're not just compatible, she said quietly. You're overstimulating. He blinked. Is that a compliment or a warning label? She leaned in closer. Both. Their faces were inches apart now. Ray's thoughts were racing. Here he was, locked in a high-tech room, with the most beautiful alien woman he'd ever seen. Her body responding to him like he was made of pheromones and starlight. And yet, beneath all of that, he felt something real. Something he didn't expect. Not lust, not curiosity. Connection. She reached up slowly, resting her other hand on his chest. I can feel your heartbeat. It's irregular. Strong. Yeah, that's because I'm trying real hard not to kiss you, unless you tell me to. Nixara blinked. You would wait? She asked, surprised. He nodded. I told you I'm not here to take anything you're not ready to give. Her arrow twitched again, this time curling gently along his forearm. Then kiss me, Ray Thorne. He did. It was gentle at first. Exploratory. Her lips were softer than he expected, cool but growing warmer with each second. The kiss deepened. Slow and sure, their bodies shifting closer like gravity had decided to help. Her arrow wrapped around his back, glowing with vibrant pulses of pale blue. Every Zalari signal was firing. She didn't need tests anymore. He was the bond. When they finally pulled apart, Nixara looked dazed, but smiling. You passed, she whispered. Ray grinned. I'm a very motivated student. Then the emergency lights turned red. Unauthorized entry detected. Warning, breach in level 4 biosecurity. Ray stood instantly, pulling her behind him. Great, who crashes a bonding chamber? The door hissed and opened, and in stepped a figure in black armor, helmet sealed. No insignia. Nixara gasped. That's not security. It's a Virexian shadow operative. Ray narrowed his eyes.
Oh.
Friend of yours? No, she said. They oppose Zalari human cooperation. If they extract me, Ray was already moving. He grabbed the closest thing he could use as a weapon. Heavy Charon stepped between Nixara and the intruder. You want her? He said. You'll have to go through me. The operative didn't respond with words. She raised an arm and fired. But Nixara was already activating her personal field, throwing up a shimmering wall of energy between them. Ray, we have to run, she shouted. They're not here to debate. Another shot rang out. The field cracked. He grabbed her hand. No more bonding tests. Time for the human solution. What's that? We kick ass and improvise. As they ran down the corridor side by side, alarms blaring and danger closing in, Nixara realized something. Whatever happened next, ... This was already more than a bond. This was a partnership, and possibly the beginning of something even greater. Something worth fighting in, maybe. Even dying for. Asterisk, some couples go on dinner dates. Some take long walks under the stars, Ray Thorne and Nick Zaravel. They ran from assassins through a collapsing diplomatic complex, hand in hand, while bonding hormones surged through their systems like overclocked rocket fuel. It wasn't romantic in the traditional sense, but it was them. Left. Nixara shouted, her voice echoing down the polished corridor. Ray didn't ask why, just trusted her and veered hard around the corner, boots skidding on the smooth Zalari stone. Behind them, plasma bolts scorched the walls, missing by inches. The Virexian shadow op was gaining. We need a way out, Ray shouted, scanning for a vent, stairwell, anything. Nixara's glowing eyes narrowed as her arrow flared out like wings. There's a transit shaft ahead. It leads to the neutral. Docs, you sure? I helped design the layout, she snapped, hot and helpful. Marry me later. They reached the Shafton elevator with no lift in it, just a vertical tube of anti-grav rings humming faintly. Nixara didn't hesitate. She dove in, vanishing. Upward like a silver streak, Ray followed, shouting, If I die doing this, I'm haunting the entire Galactic Council. The anti-grav kicked in and launched him skyward. They landed hard to levels up, stumbling into a quiet corridor lit only by emergency lights. The silence was eerie. Too still. Ray, Nixara whispered, pointing. A glowing security orb hovered at the end of the hallway. Gotta. It scanned them once, then flashed red. Delari Ambassador Vel. Commander Thorne, you are in violation of protocol. Porter 2 to B. Surrender for decontamination. Ray squinted at it.
No.
Decontamination sounds suspiciously like vaporization. Before the orb could react, Nixara pulled a small device from her belt, something she'd tucked away in her robes earlier. She aimed it at the orb and pressed the trigger. It blinked, buzzed, then powered down. Ray stared. Was that ... a security override tool? She gave him a sly look. Zalari, don't just bond with anyone, Commander. We prepare for complications. Ray grinned. God, I love complications. They didn't stop running until they reached the access hatch leading into the docking corridors. But as Nixara opened the panel, She staggered, her breath caught. Ray was beside her in a second, holding her up. "Hey, talk." "To me? What's happening?" Her voice was weak, trembling. "Bond stress, combined with the pheromone overload. It's causing biofeedback. I need stabilizer." Ray looked around. "Where do I get that?" Her arrow brushed his cheek. "No time. It's possible you can help." He blinked. "Me? How?" Nixara took a shaky breath. "My body is trying to complete the pairing." But the process was interrupted to stabilize. Contact. Close proximity. You must initiate a reinforcement gesture." Ray paused. "That sounds an awful lot like you want me to. Cuddle you." Zalari culture, it is called envelopment rest. What involves wrapping your body around your bondmate to share warmth and rhythm. So cuddling. Got it. He slid down with her to the floor, pulling her into his arms without hesitation. She was trembling now, her breath shallow, Errol twitching against his chest. He wrapped himself around her tightly, letting his heat envelop her. "I've got you," he whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." Slowly her breathing began to calm. Her body softened against his, her Errol wrapped around his shoulders and waist, glowing faintly in the dim light. "Sync achieved," a voice chimed from her cum band. "Pairing stabilized." Ray exhaled. "Well, if that's not the sexiest way I've ever been told, I saved someone's nervous system, Nixara gave a weak laugh. "You're insufferable." "Yeah," he said softly, stroking her hair. "But you're stuck with me now." They stayed like that for a while, curled up on the floor of an escape corridor. Two very different beings from two very different worlds, finding quiet in each other. When Nixara finally sat up, she looked steadier, her glow more even. But her expression was serious. "Ray, what we've done, it won't just cause scandal. It will rewrite protocols. Zellery law hasn't accounted for cross-species bonding. If they declare the bond illegitimate, I may be exiled." Ray stared at her. "You'd lose everything." For me, her answer was immediate. "I haven't lost anything. I've found something. I've chosen something." He reached out, brushing his knuckles along her jaw. "Then maybe it's time we stop running." She blinked. "What?" "I mean it. Let's not hide. Let's go public. Full declaration. Let the whole damn galaxy know we're bonded. And proud of it." Nixara hesitated. "You realize they'll put us under tribunal review, possibly strip me of ambassadorial status? We'll be declared politically, contaminated." Ray chuckled. "That's not even the worst thing I've been called." Before she could argue further, the wall panel beside them lit up with a blinking message. "Urgent summons Galactic Council Tribunal, 0300 hours." Ray stared at it. "Speak of the Space Devils." Nixara stood slowly. "They know. They're calling us in." Ray rose beside her. "Then let's give them a show." She gave him a look. "You intend to walk into the highest interstellar court and ... what? Announce our emotional entanglement?" He grinned. "Hell yes. I'm a human. They don't back down from Lavore, from idiots who try to tell us who we can and can't touch." She stared at him. Then something in her expression cracked. It's the smallest smile. Hope. Real and trembling. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." "I've never met anyone like you," she whispered. He leaned in close, forehead touching hers. "And you never will again." Together, they walked toward the tribunal chamber hand in hand, bond fully stabilized. Guards flanking them on either side. As they stepped through the grand, arched entrance into the council hall, where hundreds of delegates waited, silence fell over the room. Ray squeezed her hand. Nixara squared her shoulders, and the galaxy watched silent, stunned, and ready for the human and the alien who dared to love out loud. Asterisk. The Grand Tribunal Chamber of the Galactic Council hadn't seen silence like this in centuries. Not during the Threxian Civil Accord, not when the Quarian Black Hole Treaty collapsed. Mid-signing. Not even when the Harkon ambassador spontaneously combusted during a peace offering ceremony, though that was quite a day. But nothing prepared the galaxy's oldest governing body for the sight of a human and a Zellery ambassador walking in hand, with the unmistakable glow of a completed pairing shimmering between them. Ray Thorne didn't wear a uniform. He wore his old spacer jacket, torn at the sleeve, soot-stained and scorched from a dozen missions. Nixara Vel wore her ambassadorial robe, but it was open, flowing. Her arrow resting freely on her shoulders, a message to the council. I choose transparency over protocol. The moment they stepped onto the central platform, murmurs erupted. He's human. They completed the bond. That's biological heresy, or miracle. At the center of the chamber sat High Arbiter Yalin Kor, a stern-faced being with 8 crystalline eyes and a voice that could break glass or soothe storms depending on his mood. He didn't either now. His long fingers tapped slowly on the tribunal's desk. "Ambassador Vel," he said at last, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You were summoned to explain your violation of Protocol 77. You were expected to submit a report, not a ... consort." Nixara raised her chin. "He is not a consort, he is my bondmate." The chamber exploded with sound. Dozens of voices shouted at once, disbelief, fury, fascination. She said bondmate. Unprecedented. Her position must be revoked immediately. Ray squeezed Nixor's hand. "Well, I think they like me." She gave him a sideways look. "You're doing very little to de-escalate this." "Wasn't hired to de-escalate. I was hired to survive hellholes. And this is just politics." Arbiter Kor banged the staff of order once. The sound was like a thunderclap. Silence returned. "Explain," Kor said simply. "Why you risked the stability of interspecies diplomacy to form a physical, emotional, and presumably reproductive bond with a human?" Nixara inhaled. "Because he is the first being I have ever chosen for myself," Ray added. "Because when everything around us was falling apart, we didn't wait for permission to care. We acted." Kor's crystal eyes narrowed. "You defied Zalari custom, galactic order, and diplomatic hierarchy." Nixara stepped forward. "I improved upon them." Gasps echoed. Ray gave a small, impressed whistle under his breath. "I did not betray my people," Nixara continued. "I fulfilled the very purpose of diplomacy to understand, to connect, and when possible, to unite. Ray Thorne is not just compatible, he is my equal." Kor's voice was cold. "You've risked an uproar across 16 species territories." Ray stepped up beside her. "Then let's have that uproar. Let them watch us survive it." "You're a soldier," a voice called out from the side. Tarskan delegate with pale green eyes. "What do you know of diplomacy?" "I know more than a few of you do," Ray fired back. "I know that sometimes the best way to bring people together is to show them what connection really looks like. Not just treaties and trade routes. Real connection." Another delegate stood, a Zelari elder face lined with age. "Then prove it." Nixara blinked. "Prove what?" "Your bond is complete," the elder said. "It's not chemical. Manipulation or political theater, that it's true." So lingered. The chamber quieted again. "Scan us," Nixara said simply. Kor hesitated. "That level of bonding analysis is invasive." "I consent," Nixara replied. "So do I," Ray said. "Let's clear the air." Moments later, 2 floating Madorbs approached, humming as they scanned, both of them gathering data from brain activity. Hormonal levels, pheromone signatures, and neurological synchronization. The chamber watched, in silent anticipation. Then the orbs beeped. Subject compatibility, 99.87%. Emotional resonance, stable. Neurological synchrony, confirmed. Reproductive viability, active and progressing. Silence. Dead silence. Ray blinked. "Wait, progressing." Nixara stiffened beside him. Kor narrowed his eyes. "There's something you wish to confirm, Ambassador?" Her voice was soft, yet clear. "I'm pregnant." The chamber exploded. This time louder than before. Chairs were knocked over. Delegates shouted at once. "He impregnated her? Impossible. It's a hoax. A miracle. Blasphemy." Kor's staff struck the platform again. Enough. Ray stepped forward, his voice unwavering. You wanted proof. Now you have it. Biological, emotional, personal. We didn't ask for this, but we're not running from it either. Kor stared at him. You realize this child will be the first recognized cross-species hybrid of its kind? Nixara said, and I intend to raise this child with my bondmate. In both cultures. Another delegate stewed Counselor Shura of Earth. Then I propose we move forward, not backward. We codify this bond, recognize the union. This child be born not under scandal, ... but under hope. More murmurs. But now they were shifting, less angry. More curious, more ... inspired. Kor looked down at Ray and Nixara. You will be watched, studied, judged. You will represent the possibilities and the dangers of emotional diplomacy. Ray nodded. Bring it on. Kor's voice softened, just slightly. And by the powers of the Galactic Tribunal, I recognize this bond. Ambassador Nixaravel, Commander Ray Thorne, your pairing is hereby acknowledged as legal, unprecedented, and historic. The room didn't cheer, but it didn't riot either. And sometimes, quiet was more powerful than thunder. As they left the chamber, hand in hand, Ray leaned over to Nixara and whispered, Pregnant, huh? You could have led with that. She found out too, she whispered back. My Errol detected ... changes, but I wasn't sure until now. Ray glanced down at her flat stomach, then back into her glowing eyes. Guess we're not just changing the galaxy, he said. We're building a new one. She smiled softly, and for the first time in her life, Nixaravel wasn't bound by law, duty, or legacy. She was bound by love, and the future was just beginning to kick. Asterisk, it started. With a touch, a hand in the rain, a reckless moment on a galactic stage. Now, 8 months later, that one moment had become something the galaxy never saw coming. The first human Zalari hybrid child was about to be born. Ray Thorne paced the long, curved hallway of the Zalari birthing center, boots thumping against floors so clean they practically glowed. The air was cool and humming with a low vibration, meant to calm waiting parents, didn't work on him. He ran a hand through his hair well. What was left of it tanned, let out a breath. I've fought pirates, crashed on volcanic moons, and survived diplomatic tribunals, he muttered. But this is terrifying. Behind the double-sealed doors, Ambassador Nixaravel was in labor, not just ordinary labor. Zellary labor, which apparently involved neural syncing, biofeedback, and something called emotive channeling, which Ray still wasn't convinced wasn't just fancy alien talk for screaming with extra steps. He hadn't been allowed inside. For the early stages, Zalari birthing tradition required solo focusing. But now, the light above the chamber door blinked green, the signal for the bondmate to enter. He didn't hesitate. The doors hissed open, and there she was, Nixora glowing. With sweat and starlight, eyes wild, her Errol wrapped tightly around the curved edges of the bed. Her robe was open at the top, revealing her heaving chest, skin shimmering with bioluminescence. Her body was racked with tremors, not pain. Exactly. But the overwhelming force of what was happening. She looked at him and smiled. Late, she gasped. Ray was at her side in 2 steps, grabbing her hand. Traffic was hell. She let out a strangled laugh, and then squeezed his hand so hard he saw stars. Okay. Stronger than I remember. The child is ... determined, she grunted. Like his father, he blinked. His... She nodded, eyes fierce. Yes. A son, Ray's throat tightened. A son. The Zalari medic, a serene elder with sapphire skin, nodded. Your bondmate must stabilize her pulse. You must connect. Now. Oh. Ray didn't wait. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead gently. To hers, his hand cradling her cheek. You're not alone. I've got you. I'm here. Always. Her arrow wrapped around his back, latching instinctively. Their breathing began to sync. The medical instruments responded immediately, pulses stabilizing, neural waves aligning, both rhythms pulsing together like one heart. The elder smiled.
Good he comes now.
Ray held Nixara as she arched, body glowing with a final surge of energy. And then cried sharp loud, startlingly strong for someone who'd only just joined. The universe. The medic lifted the infant, small, blue-skinned with a faint pink undertone. Tiny Errol coiled softly on either side of his head, and eyes bright wide and startlingly human blinked up into the lights. Nixara was shaking, exhausted, glowing. Ray was crying before he realized it. The baby was placed gently on her chest, and Raythorn, war-hardened, sarcastic, scrappy space, dash soldier, ... collapsed to his knees, because nothing in all the world's no battle, no mission, no speech had ever hit him like this. Nixara looked down at the infant, tears sliding silently down. Her silver cheeks. He's perfect. Ray choked out a laugh. He looks like you. Nixara shook her head. No, he has your fire. I can feel it. They stayed that way for a long time, the three of them. Just breathing. 3 weeks later, the galaxy met. Darian Velthorn, the first of his kind, part human, at Zelari. Fully unprecedented, the announcement broadcast across every core world. Images of the sleeping child nestled between two glowing, smiling parents captured the imagination of billions. Earth erupted in celebration. The Zelari homeworld entered a 3-day reflection period where citizens were encouraged to contemplate the meaning of evolution, but not everyone celebrated. On the fringes of civilized space, conservatives whispered of biological corruption. Extremist factions called Darien an aberration. Threats were made. Councils debated Ray and Nixara. He didn't care, because something extraordinary was happening. Other species, ones who'd never considered biological blending, began talking. To Del Corey and a human registered for bond compatibility trials. A Martaxi diplomat proposed shared parenting with her Terran co-advisor. An interspecies school opened on the Zelari capital moon where human children sat beside small, blue-skinned students with twitching DARIAN had started a movement just by existing. 6 months later, Ray carried his son through the open gardens of the Unity Summit. The boy clutched a small plush rocket in one tiny hand and reached the other out toward a flock of floating wing sprites above. Nixara walked beside them, radiant in her flowing robes, her Errol now relaxed and gleaming with peace. We broke everything, Ray said, adjusting the baby on his hip. And rebuilt it better, Nixara replied. He looked at her eyes shining, still amazed you chose me. She stopped, facing him. You didn't wait for permission. You didn't care about tradition. You reached out when I didn't know I needed reaching. That's why I chose you, Ray smiled. Well, I'll try not to ruin it. You won't, she said, brushing her fingers through his hair, because you already changed everything. They kissed there, under the twin suns, their child gurgling between them, and the galaxy, ever watching, ever judging, slowly began to realize the humans hadn't just arrived. They were staying, they were loving, and they were leading a new kind of future, not through conquest, not through power, but through the most dangerous weapon of all. Unshakable, stoppable, utterly human love. The end.